Hello, everyone. My name is Sivan Tumarkin, and I am a partner at Samfiru LLP, co-founding partner, and my area of practice is long-term disability law. Um, for some of you who have seen me before, it's an opportunity to pick up on anything that we've left off on. Anybody else, any questions you have at any point, please send those to us or contact us directly. I want to reiterate that myself and my team of lawyers, we deal with disability related claims against insurance companies throughout Canada. A few exceptions like Quebec, where it's a different type of law, but generally we help people get the disability payments that they're entitled to, short-term disability, long-term disability, from those massive insurance companies who many times do not want to pay. So if you have any questions, please send them my way. I'll do my best to answer them. We only have 30 minutes. I want to start off with a topic that I get asked about quite often, which is mental health issues, mental health illnesses, things like that, things that pertain to psychological, psychiatric, emotional, these kinds of elements where people are having difficulty working as a result. And people ask me all the time, does that qualify me for long-term disability law, for short-term disability, compensation? And I tell them, look, under most policies of long-term disability that you have through your health benefits at work, that you may have purchased privately, some people purchase private disability coverage. If you're unable to work and you have someone treating you, a psychologist, a psychoanalyst, a family doctor, a psychiatrist, anyone else that is saying, look, we're treating this person at this point cannot work, cannot fulfill satisfactorily the main aspects of their job because of so and so, that should qualify you for short-term and or long-term disability. Now, historically, insurance companies have been very reluctant. They say, look, how do we know that you're depressed? How do you know that you suffer from these debilitating symptoms that disable you from working, from performing your job? And people sometimes get rejected for those claims because the insurance company says there's insufficient medical documentation. There's no objective proof that you are in fact disabled from working. Well, if you think about it, what objective proof is there for you having a headache, for you being depressed, other than generally seeking help, other than going to a treatment provider? Again, it doesn't have to be a medical doctor. Psychologists are not medical doctors. Psychiatrists are, but not psychologists. Psychoanalysts, psychotherapists. Those individuals have usually master's or PhD, but the point is they're treating you for a condition. And if they put down on paper that you're unable to work because of so-and-so condition or symptoms, constellation of symptoms, and that you need time off to recuperate and to get treatments, the insurance company ought to accept that, and they ought to pay you what you are owed under your insurance policy contract. Now, we're talking about mental health, but the reality is anything qualifies, really, whether it's an injury, whether it's an illness. People contact me because of things like cancer, arthritis, really any kind of illness, psychological or physical, or a combination of both, that disable you, that makes you unable to carry out the essential tasks of your employment, should qualify you for long-term and or short-term disability. When I say long-term, I mean long-term and short-term. So I'll just use LTD going forward. Really important to understand. You don't have to worry about, okay, does this condition qualify me or this illness? It's really simple. If you have a treatment provider or providers that agree that you should have time off work because you're unable to perform the essential tasks, not all the tasks, but the essential tasks of your occupation, you should qualify for long-term disability. We have some questions already. This comes from Reddit. I'm going to have to go on LTD once I finish my maternity leave under my doctor's advice. How does being on maternity leave impact this? Will I have more problems with my application because of this? Well, being on maternity leave is something that I think society understands. That in and of itself obviously could be a disabling condition, right? Being basically in a situation where perhaps because of the way the childbirth occurred or complications, or etc., you weren't able to go back to work. But let's assume for a second, this person who's contacting us here says, look, I was on maternity leave, but I have some symptoms, whether they're residual, whether they are from the childbirth or the maternity leave or for any other reason. I have some symptoms, maybe depression, postpartum depression, example. Okay, this happens quite a lot. Maybe because of that, you cannot work. Well, you're getting treatments for it or you're being seen for it. If you're unable to go back to work because of that, you should qualify. Now, I'm going to put a caveat there. The relationship between you and the insurance company is contractual. What I mean by that is that there is a policy of insurance. That policy of insurance is the contract that says, here are your obligations as an insured person, here's the insurance company's obligation. I would need to see that contract of insurance in order to properly tell you if in fact you 100% qualify. I'm giving you generalities here in the way that these kinds, these kinds of cases go through or evolve. But it's really important to understand that if you are rejected for any reason by the insurance company, please do not take that at face value. Tons and tons of people contact us with rejection letters from insurance companies refusing to pay them benefits, only for us to say, no, these insurance companies are wrong. And by the way, we tell you the way it is. Sometimes they are correct. I can tell you, most often than not, the insurance company is wrong in my experience. They deny claims much more often than they approve them. This is based on my experience and my colleagues' experiences. Let me just go back here because we have quite a few questions already coming in here. Okay, question from Ranjula. My insurer has set me up with several medical professionals for vocational rehabilitation. Is it normal that my vocational rehabilitation consultant changed every 2 months or so? Difficult question. People change in their jobs. Adjusters change. Bankers change. People change in their jobs. Is it normal? It's not necessarily normal that every 2 months someone changes that's supposed to be dealing with you. But that said, it does happen. Unless that affects you in a negative way, meaning that the insurance company uses that, weaponizes that against you somehow, I don't know how they would. I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, it's not convenient, obviously, because you develop a rapport, you develop, a certain relationship with individuals. But it does happen, whether it's with a trainer at the gym or your family doctor or a vocational consultant, etc. So that can happen. My concern here is whether or not people are having difficulty with their insurance companies, whether the insurance company is giving you a hard time in terms of getting benefits, in terms of accessing, those income replacement benefits, and whether they're asking you for things which they should not be asking you. And we can go through that a bit later as well. Okay, my mother has been trying to claim LTD for the last few months. They keep denying her, saying she hasn't provided enough documentation. What should she be providing? Okay, this is from Lindsay. Lindsay, let me tell you this. This is the oldest play in the book for the insurance company to say insufficient medical documentation, insufficient objective medical documentation, blah, blah, blah. Well, let me be very straight here. By the way, this is very frustrating not only to individuals who are applying for disability, but for the providers, the doctors and other treatment providers who are actually giving this information, providing it, only to have that thrown in their face by the insurance company who says it's not enough. So what is enough? What do you need to give the insurance company? We actually have a website called ltdfaq.ca, ltdfaq, frequently asked questions.ca. And there's actually a memo there. It's all free, where it tells you and your doctors or whoever's treating you how to prepare reports and how to write these letters, the information that the insurance company requires. And really, it just comes down to something very basic here. You need to be able to give the insurance company sufficient information, I'll get to the sufficient aspect in a second, that enables them to make an assessment as to whether or not you qualify for disability payments. What is sufficient? Well, what I tell people to do, or treatment providers, because we get contacted by psychologists, doctors, all who ask us, what do we need to put down on paper? I tell them, look, put down how long you've been treating this person, for what you've been treating them, what your area of specialty, are you a physiotherapist, are you a chronic pain doctor, a psychologist, etc. If you have a diagnosis that explains the disabling condition, put that down. But diagnosis is actually not a prerequisite for getting LTD. What's important is that the treatment provider doesn't just say, oh, this person is disabled. You need a bit more than that. If the treatment provider says, this person is disabled or is unable to work or unable to carry out the essential duties of their employment because of X, Y, and Z, let's say it's chronic pain. This person is working in a factory or at the office or whatever, and they can't work or they can't sit in a certain position or stand without having to take frequent breaks, and that interferes with their ability to work. So the more information you provide about the actual disabling, the functional disability, why is it the person cannot work? Not just saying this person can't work, but why can't this person work, or why can't this person fulfill their tasks of employment? And it doesn't have to be 2 pages long. It can be, a couple of paragraphs, but it has to be more than just this person is disabled. If you give that to the insurance company and the insurance company simply throws back at you, oh, there's insufficient medical documentation, not good enough. Insurance company is wrong here. So really important to understand that as long as the provider, the treatment provider, provides something more than just this person is just disabled and that's that, as long as there's some details that talk about how functionally this person is unable to carry out their duties, that should be sufficient for the insurance company, or at the very least, the insurance company can ask, okay, well, explain to me why is it that not being able to sit down for an hour, why is that making them unable to do their job? But again, for the insurance company to just blanketly say we're denying the claim because there's insufficient documentation, to me, that's a cop-out. It's something I see quite often, and it's something that is designed, in my experience, to frustrate individuals who are applying for disability. It's unfair, and you don't have to take that. Again, I want to put it out there. If you want to contact me or any member of my team and just have us take a look at these documents for free, your medical records, the notes from your doctors, the disability rejection letter, if there is one, or anything to do with your case, we will do it for free. It won't cost you a dime. It takes us a few minutes. We'll review it and we'll tell you exactly what we think. And oftentimes, honestly, I tell people, if I can avoid you hiring me for anything, great. Because you know why? You'll tell other people about me and you'll be happy with us. So it's not all about kind of making you sign and have you hire us. If I can have you resolve your claim with my advice, and I've done that many times across the country, I'm super happy about that. Okay, let's go on. Many more questions here. My insurer has set me up with several medical professionals for vocational rehabilitation. Is it normal that my vocational rehabilitation consultant is... Okay, this is unfortunately, the question has cut off here. So let's go to another question. Her doctor has outlined her symptoms and why she's unable to work. She has a problem with the blood flow in her brain, and it causes her to faint, get dizzy, etc. What more can she do? Okay, so this goes back to the question of the doctor providing the necessary medical explanation to the insurance company to allow Lindsay's mother to be able to get long-term disability. It seems to me like the doctor has been pretty specific, talking about problems with blood flow in her brain. Presumably, the doctor put in this is more medical terminology. If the doctor says that as a result of these symptoms, Lindsay's mother cannot perform the tasks of her employment or needs time off, that should be good enough for the insurance company. And if it's not, give us a call, email me, let us chat. Unfortunately, the way that insurance companies work, I tell you this anecdotally because of experience, but also because, listen, we have a team of lawyers. I speak with lawyers in other firms. We know how insurance companies operate. And don't forget, if you've seen me before, I've mentioned this, I used to work for insurance companies in the past. We also actually have a few lawyers in my group that were senior lawyers at some of the big insurance companies in Canada. So we've been on the other side. And I can tell you that many times the way insurance companies operate is with the design, the purpose of frustrating the claimant. It's making the claimant think, well, what's the point? There is no point. And I'm sure many of you who are listening and who are looking at this right now, who are seeing me, are saying, yeah, I've been there before. I've been there, done that. And that's not just for disability insurance. That's for home insurance claims, car insurance claims, travel insurance claims, any kind of insurance claims. Insurance is one of those areas where it's very frustrating because insurance companies want you to buy their product. They're selling you peace of mind. And then when you actually need their help, they tell you, well, wait a second, that's not enough. We need more. Oh, guess what? It's rejected. That's why I tell people, don't take at face value whatever the insurance company is telling you, unless they're paying you. That's great. But if they're not paying you, you have to check whether or not what the insurance company is saying and doing is correct. So, Lindsay, again, if your mother cannot work, if her doctor confirms she cannot work, if her doctor provided details about why she cannot work, the insurance company ought to approve her claim. If the insurance company is not approving her claim or dragging out the process, we can hold their feet to the fire. We can force them. How? Well, we have legal tools at our disposal. Insurance companies, I can tell you this again from experience. There's one thing that they hate more than paying out claims, and that's paying their lawyers to deal with lawyers like us. Because once we get involved and they have to get their lawyers involved, now they're on the clock. Now it's not the adjuster who is on a salary. Now they have to actually pay their lawyers. And that's something, I call that bleeding money. They're bleeding money. They don't like to bleed money. So that usually tells me that they often want to settle. They often want to reactivate the claim, put the person back on claim, approve the claim. anything not to pay their lawyers to fight these kinds of cases. Question on Facebook from Sharon. Since going off on LTD, I have been diagnosed with a new condition that will severely impact my mobility in the near future. If the reason for my leave changes, do I need to attempt a return to work first? Interesting. What should I do with the changing diagnosis? No, you do not need to try to return to work first. That has inherently more issues with it. If you can go back to work, let me be clear. If you think you're able to go back to work or try a gradual return to work, and your doctor agrees, go ahead, do it, talk to your doctor, make sure that it's documented that you are trying to go back. But if the question here from Sharon is, well, I have a new condition or a different condition that's disabling me, not the condition for which I was approved initially for disability, but a new one, do I have to go back to work first? No, especially not if you're not able to go back to work. If you're not able to, I don't want you to hurt yourself. Don't go back to work against medical advice. Now, insurance companies, they may tell you a whole bunch of things, but the reality is this: if you continue to be disabled, even if the disability changes, that does not disqualify you from LTD. Let me give you a prime example. The person has an injury. Because of the injury, whatever the injury is, because of the injury, the person is unable to work. Okay, they go on disability. At some point, the injury morphs into a psychological condition. The person becomes depressed. The injury heals up to a certain point, as many injuries do, perhaps completely, perhaps plateaued at a certain point, but now you're having depression, major depressive disorder, or anxiety, whatever. Well, you're disabled now, not necessarily from the injury, but from the condition. Again, there is an argument to be made here that, first of all, that's a continuing injury because it's just the sequela, the continuation of the injury. But secondly, you are still unable to work, and it's documented in your records. The insurance company should not cut you off. And if the insurance company, for some reason, says to you either that you don't qualify anymore because it's a different injury or a different illness or a different disability, or if they tell you you have to go back to work first, do not do so without speaking with us. Again, for free. It doesn't cost anything. So I want to tell people, don't Google these things. Don't go and try to find these answers. We are here for you. The service doesn't cost a thing. This is part of us doing these Facebook Lives for free. I do TV shows. My partners do TV shows, radio shows. We want you to have this information. If at some point you need us to fight the insurance company, we can talk about that. But this is just information. This is us empowering you. Take advantage of it. Okay, dealt with that. Quite a few other questions. Since going off on LTD, I have been diagnosed with a new okay, we've done this actually. Hi, I'm on LTD for depression, anxiety, and adjustment disorder. In light of the advent of AI, artificial intelligence, and my age, getting a job in related profession might be an issue for me. No one will want to hire me. Well, I assume the question is what to do if you are better or if you're able to go back to work. How does that affect your LTD claim? Okay, we have to understand what the obligations are of an insurance company in this context. A disability insurance company has an obligation to pay you income replacement, that's the disability benefits you're entitled to, if you cannot work because of a disability. If you are now healed and are now no longer constrained or prevented from working in your job because of your disability, meaning you're now better, the fact that there is no availability for your work, the fact that there is now an AI that took over, that's not the insurance company's problem. You may have an employment issue that we can help with your employer. If your employer doesn't give you your job back, that's a different issue. And we have employment lawyers that advise on this stuff. But again, the insurance company, when we're looking at an insurance company and their obligations, it's to pay you while you are disabled from working. And if they don't pay you, if they reject you, if they make you go through so many hoops and drag out the process without paying you, that's when we come in and force them to do so. But once you are better, once you are able to go back, if the job is not available to you, that becomes now an employment issue potentially, not a disability issue, because the insurance company is not on the hook for there not being a job for you. The insurance company is only on the hook to pay you if you're unable to do your job, assuming that job was there. Okay. What is the best way to start dealing with an injury and a long-term leave after being in an accident? So first of all, it depends on the actual accident. Are we dealing with a car accident? Are we dealing with a slip and fall? Depends. Why am I saying that? Because when you're dealing with with injuries from car accidents, there's other insurance that we're talking about. Now there is automobile insurance that potentially may have to pay you income replacement benefits. And so there is an interplay between the income replacement benefits for insurance, auto insurance from a car accident, and if you have access to long-term disability through some disability coverage that you have through work or privately. Won't get into this right now. It'll take me 5 hours to actually delve into that. I'm more than happy to for anybody who wants. I can speak with you directly, but the key thing is this. If you're involved in any accident, you may be entitled to a whole slew of benefits. It could be through automobile insurance, if that's what's available. It could be through LTD, in which case, again, we can help you with that. It could be that maybe somebody was negligent and caused you to get injured. Maybe it was a slip and fall and they didn't, sand and clean their sidewalk. So you may have another type of claim that you may be able to make legally for compensation. So I tell people, look, whatever the question is, if it's about compensation, you don't know where to start or what to do, then again, contact us. We're not going to do it for you unless you want us to, but we can tell you what you need to do. Because the one thing you want to make sure, and this is key, that you do not miss deadlines. There are certain deadlines with certain claims. And if you don't provide either a notice that you're going to make a claim for compensation, or if you don't start a legal process, you may be out of time. I'll give you an example. LTD, there is usually a deadline by which time you have to apply for long-term disability. It can be 90 days, it can be 120 days, it can be 30 days within the onset of disability. Maybe you've been working for quite a while and you have a disabling condition, and slowly you find that you cannot do your job. You don't apply for disability, but you get let go. And then afterwards, you're saying, well, I got let go because I couldn't do my job because I'm disabled. Well, now the insurance company is going to say, well, wait a second, maybe you don't even have coverage for disability because you're no longer employed. So you understand, you have to make sure that as soon as you know that you are having difficulty working, that you are potentially disabled, you understand exactly when you need to apply for what and how. And again, we can answer those questions for you. If you have specific questions, we can answer it here. Otherwise, contact us. And again, it's all free. Okay. This is an excellent one. This is from Rake. If you are fired from your position while on LTD, what happens to your coverage? Excellent question. So, because we do at our firm exclusively disability/injury law, it's my group, and we do employment law. We're actually known as, I'm pretty sure, the largest employee, so individual representation for employment rights in the country. We have that dual specialty. We have lawyers that focus on employment law, lawyers that focus on disability and injury law, and we have lawyers that do both, that combine the two. And they're both subspecialties, and you have to make sure you understand how they interact, because if you don't, it's a true peril. So, good question. Let's say you're on LTD and you get fired. Several issues here. The question this person poses is, what happens to your LTD coverage? It shouldn't be affected. Once you're on LTD, you are on that system. You're with the insurance company. The only way you get cut off is if the LTD either ends, let's say you turn 65 and the policy ends at age 65, or maybe you're better, you've now been able to go back to work because you're no longer disabled, okay? Or maybe you're non-compliant with your treatments. The doctors say you have to do X and Y and you don't do it. That could potentially disentitle you, although again, caveats there. We can potentially argue that you didn't breach the policy. But your LTD should not be touched if your company fires you. But that raises a different question. Again, now I'm kind of putting my employment law hat on. Even though I'm not an employment lawyer, I know enough about it by speaking to my colleagues. It is illegal in the majority of provinces in Canada to fire someone while they're on disability. This is a human rights violation. The reason why that's important, other than the fact that it's a human rights violation, is that it may entitle you to termination pay and human rights damages. And this is where it overlaps with LTD law. If you're let go from your job while you're disabled, you're going to potentially be entitled to some kind of severance, termination pay. The insurance company may want to get that money. They may want to say, well, you can get termination pay and LTD at the same time because one is instead of the other. So they may want to actually grab that. But under most policies, they can't do that to human rights damages. Remember? If they fire you and you're disabled, that's a human rights violation. So how do we make it so that we keep most of the money in your pocket? And that is a case-by-case basis. It's a very factual analysis. So the answer here is, what happens to your LTD if you're fired while you're on LTD? Shouldn't affect your LTD coverage. Okay, the insurance company should continue paying you. It's irrelevant if they fired you or not. but the severance or termination pay or human rights pay you may be entitled to may get affected by your LTD coverage and what your policy says. Crucial for us to speak with you at that point. And I wouldn't even go just to an employment lawyer. I've had cases where people had an employment lawyer deal with the termination. The employment lawyer doesn't know anything about LTD or knows very little, gets the individual a great settlement from the employer, only for the insurance company to then grab the entire thing. So what was the point? Again, this is why you want people who are who understand both areas of law. Somebody here says this is such a helpful channel. Watch several of your streams this week. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Okay. What if you're off on leave because of a disability, but are out of the field so long that the industry has changed completely and you are completely redundant? It's an excellent question. Again, there's an employment component here, because if you are disabled, and let's say you were disabled for 5 years, 6 years, 8 years, whatever, 10 years, time doesn't stop. The industry changes. Completely true in many fields. At that point, I would want you to speak with one of my colleagues who does employment law, who can advise you from an employment standpoint what rights you have, what compensation you're entitled to from your old employer, who may or may not have a job for you. I can't advise on, I'm not an employment lawyer, but they can. But from a disability standpoint, remember, an insurance company does not have an obligation to continue paying you LTD, long-term disability, if you are no longer disabled. The only test for them is, are you disabled from working in your job, or any job if it's beyond 2 years? So really important. But again, this is why I say to people, look, we're employment lawyers and disability lawyers, so you can fire those questions both ways. And I'm going to mention to you actually the next employment Q&A that is coming up, where you can ask that question, what happens. Mark here says, it was a car accident. Sorry, I'm still fuzzy and just trying to navigate all of this. Okay, this is with respect, I think, to the question about what happens, how do you apply for LTD? So I'll tell you, Mark, I don't know which jurisdiction you're from, Ontario, BC, whatever it is, which province you're in affects what rights you have vis-a-vis that car accident. From a long-term disability standpoint, if you're unable to work, you should be able to apply for long-term disability if you have coverage for it through work. But if, for example, you're in Ontario, you're going to have certain rights from your own automobile insurer, or if you are a pedestrian, from the automobile insurer of the car that struck you. Again, there are many kind of what if this and that. I'd love to just speak with you, or someone on my team speaks with you. They'll explain everything. They'll answer all the questions you want. And again, I want to emphasize, no one's going to tell you, pay us for this or sign, the car. No, we'll give you this information. If you need our help to actually navigate this stuff, to do it for you, we can talk about that. But you just want information, please do not hesitate. We are known for this. We're known for giving out this information. It's not like the old days where you got to pay God knows what to get this information from a lawyer. More than happy, myself or a member of my team, to speak with you. Thank you. Timbo clarified my question in the any profession phase. Okay. Rebel Bell. I'm on my second appeal for a denial. Oh boy. What can I do to bolster my chances of having them approved? Is there any good way to deal with an appeal? Excellent question. Appeals, they're the banes of most of my clients' existence. Here's the deal with appeals. When you're denied long-term disability, the insurance company denies your claim, but then one of the last paragraphs will say, well, you have a right to appeal this. You have a right to essentially, we ask us for a consideration. Anybody here that has kids, and the kids have, when they were small, asked, can I have a candy? And you said, no, you can't have a candy because of whatever reason. And then half an hour later, they ask you again, can I have a candy? What's your answer going to be? That's exactly what happens in my experience with most of these insurance companies. These appeals, for the most part, are useless, because you're asking the exact same people or their colleagues in a different department to reconsider their denial. What is their incentive? Now, I'm not saying it never works. And I'll tell you in a second what I think you can do to potentially try and get, a higher likelihood of success with an appeal. But the reality is, most of these appeals fail. They're designed to fail. They're designed to frustrate you. They're designed to run out the clock. What do I mean by that? Well, you got 2 years from the date of the first time you were denied LTD to start a legal action against the insurer. And I've seen cases where people have appealed over and over and over, have gone beyond the 2-year mark, and then the insurance company says goodbye. And you can't do anything except for some remote circumstances, really unusual circumstances, where you can somehow get beyond the limitation period. So these appeals are useless. But if you really want to try, well, Get your doctor to write a stronger letter. Get a second opinion that gives you the same opinion that your first doctor gave. But again, most of the time when I see these things happen, they don't work because you're reappealing. You're not appealing to a third body. You're not appealing to a tribunal. You're appealing to the same company that denied you in the first place. So be very, very careful with that. But if you want, you can appeal. It's just that you have to, I guess, give them more information. Again, if the first bunch of information didn't work, I don't know what the second bunch of information is going to do. I've seen this play out over and over, and I've seen treatment providers become very frustrated with being asked over and over to explain why it is the person can't work when they've done that thoroughly the first time around. So to me, a legal action or the threat of a legal action is a lot more powerful, because that's when the insurance company understands it's going to cost them money to defend these things. They're going to have to pay their lawyers. They hate doing that. Okay, we are at the end of the show. I apologize. I know I spoke fast. Thank you for joining the employment live stream that we're going to have later this week. Tomorrow, actually, Thursday, July 24th, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, with Jeremy Herman, one of our star employment lawyers. That guy's smart, I can tell you. So if you have employment questions, go ask him. The next disability Q&A that we're going to have a live stream is going to be on August 5th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So that's 1 p.m. Eastern Time, with Martin Willems, our partner in BC. Again, he does work across the country. This guy also knows what he's doing. I mean, he's extremely, extremely respected as a disability lawyer. Please join. And again, if you need anything and if you have any questions, reach out to us. Myself, any member of my team would be happy to speak with you. And thank you for joining.